Welcome back with another banger. It's the React Files. Hope you're having a good night. If you haven't already, please take a second
just to smash that like, subscribe, ring that notification bell,
just to make sure the algorithm knows what's up. So let's get straight to it.
Giant flying venomous spiders are set to invade New York this summer. Joro spiders can fly up to 100 miles by turning their webs into makeshift parasails, and they're coming to the East Coast. The invasive species originated in China, and experts believe they came to the U.S. about 10 years ago on shipping containers delivered to Georgia. Fortunately, their venom is weak, and their fangs aren't strong enough to break the skin of humans or pets. Researchers predict they will eventually invade the entire continental U.S., Canada, and parts of Mexico.
So this photo was just taken yesterday of a blood crescent moon right over the US Capitol. If you haven't been following along, let me just bring you up to speed and let you know why this is just too much. So I think we all know this week started with the crazy political scene of the trial. Love him or hate him, the famous Alex Jones then had his studio forcibly shut down. And investigative journalist Steve Baker was just arrested by the FBI. We had the horrible fire in California. Then we had the over 130 earthquakes in Hawaii and the volcano eruption. And not that it necessarily means anything, but this week was already a week of interest because if you didn't know, the famous boxer Ryan Garcia, who some people think was going crazy and talking conspiracy theories, quickly tweeted and then deleted that there would be a horrible earthquake on June 6th. I then did a quick video asking ChatGPT about what led up to the Great Earthquake of 1811, and the answers were shocking to say the least. Just a few months before the Great Earthquakes began, they had a total solar eclipse over the US. They also then had a very strange showing of northern lights showing all across the US. So with all that being said, this photo does not give off the best feeling. I don't think any person knows exactly what the future holds, but it definitely seems like a good time to start preparing.
That was a nice shot of the moon. It did look very ominous. There's a lot going on right now.
So tomorrow is June 6th, and Ryan Garcia is doubling down. But this gets really weird. But first, when an earthquake happens tomorrow in LA and Vegas, I don't want to hear anyone speak. The Lord Jesus Christ is the King of Kings. So he's saying it's going to happen, right? I've been noticing some very weird things. First, Starship 4 received approval for launch on June 6th. So Elon's fourth flight will be tomorrow, the same day that Ryan Garcia said that there would be an alleged earthquake. It gets so much weirder though. By the way, don't forget all the activity during the eclipse on the 8th with, I believe it was NASA. Guess who's back? The Devil's Comet, and this time it's going to make its closest approach to Earth this Sunday. Now remember, its last appearance was on April 8th during the eclipse, and I even got pictures of it. And now we're about to see it again this Sunday, its closest time yet, the Devil's Comet. And remember, I told y'all before, I think the Devil's Comet is literally just the devil, and it showed up right after the statue of Satan got struck by lightning. Comet in the Middle East, they were thinking it was actually some kind of weaponry, but it wasn't. It was a green comet. Why does this matter? Let's look. So y'all should be aware that the Devil's Comet will be going on while the April 8th total solar eclipse is going on, which they call a green horn fireball. Call me crazy, but is this a Devil's Comet? Or is it just the devil? I'm sure you're aware of the firmament over our head, right? Some other weird stuff. The Statue of Liberty was destroyed by lightning. Why does that matter? The Statue of Liberty is the Colossus of Rhodes. The Colossus of Rhodes is Helios. Helios is the light bringer. It's Apollo. It's Abaddon and Apollyon. And just in, earthquakes are starting in California tonight. Yes, tonight, the 5th. And then we also just had the 6 planets lining up, which is very, very, very important to the higher ups with their astrology. And have you noticed just how much the aliens have been in the news lately? I have, and this was on Arby's door. So like, what kind of return? So it's really not just the weather we have to deal with or the warming waters, it's everything. So what do y'all think? Earthquake tomorrow or no? And by the way, I've seen this all over TikTok, it's fake. Look at the tentacles. That's not to say they're not out there, though.
I'm happy he debunked that squid. That joint was huge. Shout out to Inspired by the King. As for the Ryan Garcia prediction, I don't think it's gonna happen. I really don't. To be honest, I think he's just bugging out. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below.
Ryan Garcia is doubling down, posted this: when an earthquake happens tomorrow in LA and Vegas, I don't want to hear anyone speak. The Lord Jesus Christ is the King of Kings. Here's what I find crazy. In the last 24 hours, there has been 911 9/11 earthquakes. Magnitudes up to 5.6. And on Tuesday, there was 1,300 earthquakes that day. And the reason why that is alarming is because the daily average is around 55 earthquakes per day, or 20,000 per year. But you're telling me in the last 2 days, we've had around 2,000 earthquakes around the world. And the day before, June 6, 666, the day that Ryan Garcia has predicted a earthquake in LA and Vegas, he is doubling down on it. So that is crazy to me. We'll see what happens tomorrow, but we have 9/11 symbolism here. Look, I'm not telling you there's going to be an earthquake tomorrow. Ryan Garcia is. And I'm not telling you that I agree with him or that I believe him, but this right here is alarming. I cannot stress enough, no matter what happens, we cling to the Lord, whether there is an earthquake tomorrow or not. I mean, clearly there's going to be an earthquake tomorrow. There's been 1,000 of them today and yesterday. So there's clearly going to be an earthquake, but it's more the idea of the magnitude. What do you guys think? Do you think Ryan Garcia knows something about something going on? Is it just nonsense? What do you think's happening? I'm on the fence. I'm on the fence that he's controlled opposition and he's pushing propaganda to make Christians look crazy because he always confesses or professes Jesus, and then when nothing happens tomorrow, he looks crazy like every other Christian. Or maybe he does know something, and then we'll see, right? I don't know where to go with this. That's why I'm asking you guys. Well, with that, we'll see what happens. But again, 1,000 earthquakes the last couple days. Pretty crazy. Love y'all so much. God bless, and remember, the just shall live by faith.
Y'all, there's got to be something going on with the water, y'all. Look at this. There's got to be something going on with the water. Check this out.
Oh, get the dogs out. Get the dogs away. Get the dog back. Get back, Charlotte.
Bro, this dog got no survival skills whatsoever. And apparently this guy doesn't either. But look at this. This thing gets even more interesting. Is that a sawfish, y'all? Don't worry, it gets more interesting.
Your pictures of it? Yeah, I got video. Where'd we go? He'll pop back in a minute. Insane. Come on, look. That's crazy. Oh, look at it.
Look at that. It's trying to come on land.
What the hell?
It's literally trying to come on land, y'all. What's going on?
You know what? After this video, I'm going to back my ass up.
Yeah, you should have before.
He came to shore. Fuck that.
There's got to be something going on with the water, y'all. Like it's literally trying to come on. It's literally trying to come on the shore.
Well, now you've added something else. Scott, I don't know what Clint's bringing down here, but he needs to go back to fuck home. So.
Look at that, y'all. It's literally trying to take him out. That's crazy. Or what is going on? There's got to be something going on in the water, y'all. Look at it. This is in Florida, boy. Everything's happening in Florida. So much activity is going on in the water, especially in Florida, y'all. It's literally has turned up. The animals in the water, or the fish in the water. I've been saying fishes lately. People been getting on me about that. The fish in the water have been acting up in Florida. I don't know if it has to do with the heat or something like that, but something's going on, man. But let me know what you guys think about this video. This video is strictly for entertainment purposes only. I am only raising awareness to interesting situations during these interesting times. Like, comment, and share for more videos like this, y'all. Thank you for tuning to my frequency. Let's get this shift. Peace in.
Yo, that thing look crazy. Shout outs to Conscious Juice. Like a stingray and a shark had a baby. I don't know, ever since that eclipse, things been getting strange.
The LPD and LFR were dispatched to a funeral home here in Lincoln on a medical emergency. Employee was placing constant glance onto a table to start their process, and an employee noticed that she was breathing. They instantly called 911 and LFR and LPD responded, and she was taken to a local hospital and is still alive.
Thank goodness she's still alive. I know if I was that morgue worker, I definitely would have been freaking out. Like, why is this body breathing? Quick 2 minutes, like, gotta register what's going on. I wonder how often this happens without being noticed.
Sean Kingston and his mother are facing multiple charges after the singer's Florida mansion was raided. Prosecutors allege the Beautiful Girls singer and his mom, Janice Turner, conducted an organized scheme and stole nearly $500,000 in jewelry, more than $200,000 from Bank of America, $160,000 from an Escalade dealer, over $100,000 from First Republic Bank, and $86,000 from a maker of customized beds. Kingston was already on 2 years probation for trafficking stolen property when he was arrested.
Got the money, still jugging. And he had the help from his moms. I figured with them royalties, he'd be good. Pray that driver was okay. It sounded like 10 to 12 flips to me.
Powerful winds sent a group of window workers swinging wildly hundreds of meters above the ground. The men were on one of Beijing's tallest skyscrapers when a flash storm appeared, leaving them dangling 51 stories high. Local media reported the workers were safely rescued.
Thank goodness they were rescued. I'm sure half of them fainted. I would have lost my ever-loving mind. They look like bugs on a spider web.
Hollywood have a movie coming out Friday. Guess what they named it? The Watchers, after the fallen angels. This movie was speaking about how the fallen angels came here with only one job, one purpose, one mission. That's to make sure we don't destroy this planet. But they also had another mission, never interfere with us. But you know what they did? They broke universal law and they started to interfere with us. Once they interfered with us, the universe turned them into a statue made out of stone, but not stone as rocks. They are frozen in time. They found this one fallen angel in Russia. But do you know where most of the angels live at? Antarctica. Remember, they are frozen in time. So once you hear about Antarctica ice walls melting, they're letting you know that they're about to be thawed out, unfrozen. They are about to walk the planet with us once again. That's why we really can't go to Antarctica, because that's where the fallen angels live at. But they show something really creepy in the trailer of this movie right here. They showed a woman knocking on a mirror. She wasn't just knocking on a mirror, she put her ear to the mirror and she could actually hear these spirits talking through the mirror. Let me give you a quick tip. Never knock on a mirror, because once you knock on a mirror, it is an invitation and these spirits will let you in. But there are not any regular spirits. The mirrors are the land of the lost for these spirits. Most ghosts live in these mirrors. Do you know what these fallen angels really fear? They fear that one day we will actually surpass them and have more power. That's why they interfere with us. That's why when you wake up spiritually, you are the greatest threat to the Matrix. Wake up.
Shout outs to Organic Like Us. I was wondering about that movie. It definitely feels like it got some hidden narrative deep down below, you know? But yeah, I didn't even know they found that fallen angel in Russia. Like, that's pretty creepy. That's crazy. That's when you just gotta start singing a jingle. Like a good neighbor, I hope old buddy shows up.
So NATO and the US are planning on sending troops to the battle zone. But first, the news I have to share with y'all is insane, and you might not even believe half of it. It's that crazy. First, here's Mexico's new president with Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock. Why is that weird? Well, this election was actually very chaotic. Not only is she Mexico's first female president, there was also 37 unalives that election. Allegedly, it was the cartel that took out 37, again, other candidates who were running. What kind of election is that? Seems to me like there is only one choice left. We're also looking at a collapse of 63 US banks because they had a loss of $517 billion. This was verified in many other places, just a screenshot I chose to use. Now back to NATO trying to sign us up in the US for combat. NATO disclosed preparations to deploy American troops to the European front lines in the event of a full-scale conflict. And yes, it's very serious. NATO could rush US troops to the front line. Except they already have it mapped out exactly how they would do it. You know, the weather has been crazy, right? Well, something is going on in Hawaii. Again. So they've literally had 250 plus earthquakes in the last, 24 hours? Maybe 48. Either way, 30 of these earthquakes were at least 2.5 magnitude. And they seem to be getting worse. So as we enter hurricane season when it's already ridiculously hot out, are we going to be seeing earthquakes at the same time? And one person caught that it wasn't just one anomaly, but two anomalies, using the globe model. And yet northern Israel is destroyed, in the process of being destroyed. So yeah, safe to say 2024 is getting crazy. This is California, they're getting ready for the pro-Palestine demonstration. What do y'all think comes first? A massive hurricane or a massive earthquake? Let me know below.
I agree. 2024 is living up to the hype. Shout outs to Inspired by the King. He was making a lot of good points right there, wrapping it all into one, especially with the theory on the hurricanes. And I didn't know there was two anomalies out there now. This is getting insane.
Did you hear that there were 37 candidates in the Mexican presidential race? And that made way for their first ever female and Jewish president? Yeah, conspiracy theorists are having a fucking ball with this one. But the only problem is that didn't actually happen. See, all the articles are reporting this kind of headline and making it really sensationalized. But if you actually do the due diligence on it, none of them were presidential candidates. They were just candidates in other electoral seats all across the country. Only 14 of them were even officially registered candidates. The other 22 were just aspiring candidates. And this was a big election year. There was like thousands of seats up for grabs. And of those thousands of seats being voted on, 38 people got killed, which is still a lot. Mexico's got a serious cartel problem. So now that we've cleared up that part, let's talk about the Zionist conspiracy theories going on here. And let's just start by saying the world is complicated. People are complicated. The truth is not simple. I'm just going to present to you what I found with my digging. I'm not perfect. But before we leave this slide, we need to point out her close relationship with Carlos Slim, the richest man in Mexico. He's not a good guy. He runs all the banks in Mexico. He's good buddies with all the cartels. Might have something to do with why this woman won in a landslide. But she is representing the party of the former president, AMLO, Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador. And he's kind of a controversial figure. We don't have time to get into it, but he really shook things up in Mexico, like in a socialist direction. Like in a ending the war on drugs and stopping prosecuting drug lords and like policy of hugs, not bullets. Yeah, the kind of policies that like sound like maybe they're being genuine and they're going to work, but maybe he's just like working with all the drug lords. I really don't know. You'd have to ask some smart Mexicans. As for Scheinbaum, her parents are Ashkenazi and Sephardic Jews. Her parents were like secular. Her grandparents were religious. So she grew up doing holidays with her grandparents, and other than that, she's a non-religious Jew. And the conspiracy theories are flying all over the place, but like, it's actually not super clear what's going on. When you want to know about Jewish stuff, you should always go to the Jewish publications like the Times of Israel, because they are not shy about like talking about how Jews all work together and about how they should big up each other. And like, they're not shy about it. Like, if it wasn't Times of Israel, it would be called anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. But here they point out, and in another article, I've confirmed that she does not belong to any synagogues or Jewish institutions. Like, she's not involved in the Jewish community at all. She has pursued a strategy that keeps her religious background hidden without denying it. Side note, I also learned that former President Carlos Salinas had Jewish roots. That dude was corrupt. Whole other rabbit hole. But then, back in 2009, before she got into politics, Claudia Sheinbaum condemned Israel's bombing in Gaza that year. Quote, nothing justifies the murder of Palestinian civilians. Nothing can justify the murder of a child, she wrote in a letter to a local newspaper. But she's remained completely silent on Israel following October 7th. I mean, she's been the mayor of Mexico City for like 4 or 6 years now. She's like deep in politics, and she's staying very quiet about Israel right now. This Jewish journalist had this to say about the Morena party, the party of her like predecessor and now of her. It's this kind of socialist party. Quote, it's crucial for the world to know that Morena is the party responsible for deceiving the population, embezzling funds, leaving us without essential medicines, and making our nation increasingly resemble Cuba or Venezuela. The narco cartels have never been more entwined with the government than they are now, he concluded. Oh, sorry. That's a quote by Ilan Arditi, a Mexican TV and radio broadcaster, being quoted in this article, where this journalist goes on to say, the ruling party of President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, the former president, identifies with left-wing populist lines and always close to the Palestinians and anti-Israel causes. So the guy that came before her was kind of anti-Israel. And in this journalist's opinion, it would have been much better for the Jewish community if there were a non-Jewish candidate with a strong commitment to Israel and Judaism. So the Jewish people don't seem super psyched on this. But it's hard to say what's really going on here. Side note, this lighting is sick. The sun is setting out there, and there's a crack of light that's just hidden right now. And I got my fake bird silhouette. Check it out. Okay, anyways, so this woman beat this woman, Xochitl. Sorry, all my Mayan homies. I can't speak your languages. So she's indigenous. She's not Spanish Mexican. She's indigenous Mexican. You can tell from that name. And she was endorsed by the World Economic Forum back in 1999. I don't really know what that 100 global leaders of the future. I don't know if that's significant or not. I'm just trying to dig into the conspiracy theory shit for all you homies. But you see how it's kind of confusing what's really going on here? Let's play out a few scenarios. Kind of leftist, socialist president that's not getting along super well with the U.S. and is not good with Israel at all. He kind of revolutionizes Mexican politics and kind of wraps a whole bunch of parties into one, runs the government for 6 years, and Claudia Sheinbaum enters into his party and becomes the mayor of Mexico City and gets tight with him. And now they only do one term per president in Mexico, so he's out, he can't run again, and so now she's running on his party again. So she is the new him. And he was not tight with Israel, and she doesn't necessarily seem tight with Israel, but she's Jewish. It's hard to say. So you could argue that she's just a socialist like him, and she's going to go all socialist with the country, and she's going to be all progressive and shit. Or you could get all conspiratorial and be she's infiltrating the party and taking it over, and she's actually really tight with Carlos Slim and is totally just gonna slowly subvert Mexico. I don't know. I don't really see any evidence that she's a Zionist. Obviously people's views can change from back then till now, but she wasn't a Zionist back then in 2009. I don't know. I don't have any answers. All I'm saying is that sometimes the truth is way more complicated than a headline. And just because conspiracy theories are cool does not mean that they're always true. But also, just because a conspiracy theory seems to not necessarily have proof doesn't mean it's not true. It just means that you haven't found any proof. And so you should just, pump the brakes. Because no, there were not 38 presidential candidates assassinated to make way for the Jewish Zionist super overlord woman. That's not what happened. Mexico is just a narco drug state, historically and presently, and people get killed all the fucking time. All the time. And I can't imagine that this dude's policies of letting the narco drug lords just do their thing and not worrying about it, I can't imagine that really helped that much. And so if you ask me, I think we're probably just in for more of that shit. I don't know. You guys do the dig. Let me know if you find anything I missed. But listen, I don't write the rules, man. I just work here.
Shout out to Cancel This Clothing Company. I like how he broke that down and got to the information. He made a great point. Just because it's a headline doesn't mean it's entirely true. And not all conspiracy theories are true. So yeah, there's a fine line. And I agree with him 100%. Let me know what you think in the comments down below.
So this couple, they live in the jungle right near the beach. And one day, they see a strange man crawling through the sand. And he's naked, and he can barely stand, and he's clutching a knife, and he's shouting something incoherently in a language they don't understand. So the guy's name is Salvador, and he works as a deep-sea fisherman, catching tuna and sharks and stuff off the coast of Mexico. It's a dangerous job, but he's into it. And one day, he decides to go on a 2-day fishing trip. And his normal fishing partner can't make it, and he needs someone to go with. So this young, inexperienced guy volunteers. This guy, Pinata. So Salvador and Pinata, they get in the boat and they head out to the Pacific. And for about 2 days, they fish. And they catch about 1,100 pounds. Enough fish to sell back home for about a week's worth of money. And so everything is going great. Until they're finally done fishing and they turn their boat around to go back home, and then out of nowhere, kabam! A massive storm hits and the boat starts to fill up with water. And Pinata panics and he's using a bucket to get the water out of the boat as Salvador tries to steer through the massive waves. And finally, luckily, after a while, the storm starts to die down. And Salvador, he can see land. They're about 2 hours away from the shore. And that is when, boom, the boat's engine starts sputtering and it dies. So Salvador pulls out his two-way radio and he calls his boss and he's like, "Help, my engine is dead." And the boss asks for his location, but their GPS has stopped working. And then, to make it worse, the storm starts building up again. And it's getting stronger and stronger and it's tossing the boat around. Sometimes the waves are raising them up 3 stories high before the boat drops. And Salvador realizes that the 1,100 pounds of fish they caught is making the boat unstable. So they just dump it all out. And they just keep throwing anything not useful overboard to lighten the load. Like extra ice and extra fuel. And then the two-way radio dies. And by this point, Salvador and Pinata have been bailing water out of the boat for hours. And the engine still won't start. And Salvador gets frustrated and he's pissed off and he just loses it. He picks up the fish killing club and he just smashes the boat's engine. And he grabs the dead GPS and the dead two-way radio and he just chucks them into the water. Then, as night comes and the temperature drops, the two men, they have to huddle under an upside-down cooler for warmth and shelter. Meanwhile, back on land, a search party is formed to go out and look for the two. But unfortunately, the storm is still very active and visibility is still very low. And after about 2 days of no results, the search is called off. And 5 more days go by before the storm finally stops. And when it does, Salvador and Pinata, they finally get their bearings and they look around and they realize they have no idea where they are. And to make it worse, they're starving and there's nothing to eat on board and there's nothing to drink on board. So with Salvador's equipment gone, he's got to get creative. So he spends a bit of time and he figures out how to catch things in the ocean using only his bare hands. Fish and turtles and jellyfish, and they start eating that raw because that's all they have. And to drink, turtle blood. And their own urine. Because again, that's all they have. And then one day, they get lucky and a seabird lands on the boat. So Salvador, he quickly grabs it and he unalives it. And then they get to survive eating that for a few weeks. And then it finally rains, so they get to collect rainwater and they start drinking that. And so for 2 months, they live like this, eating raw animals and catching rainwater when they can. But as time stretches on, something comes over Pinata. He's not acting the same anymore, and he starts to get depressed. And as he's losing all hope, he slowly starts to refuse any food. He just simply can't bring himself to eat any more raw animals. And eventually, he just stops eating entirely. And he grows really sick. And Salvador and Pinata, they start to feel like he isn't gonna make it. So they make a pact. If Salvador makes it out alive, he'll contact Pinata's mother and deliver her a message. A message that's only meant for her. I don't know exactly what that message is because again, it's only meant for her. So Salvador, he agrees to this. And then, one rainy morning, after they've been lost at sea for over 4 months, Pinata, he finally passes away from starvation. And Salvador, he is devastated. That was the only person around. I mean, they had grown really close during this whole traumatic experience. And Salvador, he's immediately so lonely that he keeps holding conversations with Pinata's body, even after he's dead. And after 6 days of this, he realizes it's not mentally healthy to keep talking to a corpse, pretending it's alive. So he pushes Pinata's body back into the ocean, and he goes on living his life on that boat, lost at sea. And 10 more months go by, and Salvador is still out there, living day to day, catching fish with his bare hands and drinking rainwater and having conversations with birds. But then, one day, Salvador starts to see a different kind of bird. Not the seabirds he's used to seeing. No, these are land birds. And through the distance, he can suddenly see kind of a mountaintop. And that mountaintop ends up being attached to an island. Maybe there is hope. Maybe he can deliver that message to Pinata's mother like he asked him to. Now, this island is about an hour away, and Salvador directs his boat toward it. And when he's close enough, he dives into the ocean and he swims for the shore. And then he gets there, and he's too weak to walk, and he's naked. And he had brought a knife with him just in case. And he slowly crawls up the beach into the jungle, and that's where he spots a house. And the owners of that house, a couple, they see him crawling around naked with a knife, shouting in Spanish. And they're like, who the fuck is this guy? But that couple does end up helping him get to the hospital. So, what is this island Salvador finally landed on? Well, after being lost at sea for 438 days, Salvador had drifted over 6,000 miles, all the way from Costa Azul, Mexico, to Ibon in the Marshall Islands. About a month later, after he's rescued, he finally gets a chance to travel to El Fortín in Mexico. There, he visits Pinata's mother, and he's able to deliver Pinata's final message to her. Then he gets a book deal because his story is just incredible. And afterwards, Pinata's family sues him for $1 million, wanting half the proceeds from any of his book sales. So that's fun. I don't know if the lawsuit actually went through, but that's the last reporting anyone did on any of them. So good luck with all that.
Now that's a crazy story. 438 days, a year and a month. Yo, eating raw fish. My condolences to his friend, Pinata. But that's crazy. Talking to a corpse for a week, bro's mental fortitude is indestructible. For sure. Half the proceeds to the family, I wonder if they got it.
It's the middle of the night, and this was captured on one homeowner's doorbell camera. A man armed with an actual sword, a hammer, and an axe walks up to the front porch. He then proceeds to steal multiple items outside of the house. At one point, a car drives by, but the man completely ignores it. After a while, he walks off with his bag filled with stolen items, the sword still being held under his arm.
You want to feed the giraffe? Feed him. Look, feed him. Come here. Look. Oh, look.
And that's a wrap. Hope you enjoyed tonight's rabbit hole. If you haven't already, please take a second
just to smash that like, subscribe, ring that notification bell,
just to make sure the algorithm knows what's up. So what we gonna do, y'all? That's right, run these numbers up. Thanks again. Until next time.